I'm going to tell a story I like to call American Immigrant. When I was 11, I attended a boarding school in Cuernavaca, Mexico. My sister and I had integrated a boarding school in Southern California when we were 8 years old. There were only 10 girls in that little class, so we got compared to each other a lot. And by 11, I was really tired of being compared to my sister, so I went to Mexico. Instituto Marymount was housed on a gated estate that was left to the nuns by a wealthy British expatriate. There was naked statuary everywhere. The swimming pool was in the shape of a half circle or a letter C, so clearly never intended for swim meets. Most of the American girls there were the daughters of executives of US corporations based in Mexico, Coca-Cola, Colgate. And most of the Mexican girls were there because their parents wanted them to be fluent in English. Our French and Spanish teacher was an ancient woman who we called Madame. Madame was regal, statuesque, iron-haired, and had the best collection of Hermes scarves of anyone I've ever met. She took us on behind-the-velvet rope tours in Mexico City of the presidential palace, where her grandfather, Porfirio Diaz, had served some 7.5 terms, or over 30 years, as president/dictator of Mexico. She titillated us with stories of how his mistresses were secreted into his house through a secret door. And then she horrified us by telling us how her family escaped through that same door during the Mexican Revolution and made their way to France. It was some of the best history lessons I've ever had. I went home to California for Christmas, and 2 upper school girls, also from California, were assigned to be my chaperones, airport to airport. They did not really want an 11-year-old brown-skinned girl in a kilt and loafers following after them while they cruised the airport for boys wearing miniskirts and fringed boots, or at least that's the way they explained it when they ditched me. So I wandered the airport. I bought chocolate at duty-free. I boarded the plane and ordered more than 1 Coca-Cola. And I filled out my immigration card, all of it on my own for the first time. When we landed at LAX, I waited in line for one of the officers at the little kiosks. And when it was my turn, I approached the red-faced man with the snug uniform, who didn't even look up. He just held out his hand. So I put my passport and declaration card into it. I was expecting the stamp on the passport and the welcome home I'd heard before when I'd traveled outside of the country with my parents. But when this man looked up, he was annoyed and growing angry. "Do you think this is funny?" "Excuse me," I say. "This is a federal document. You could go to prison for this." "I'm sorry, I don't know why you're so upset." He looks me in the eye, he gets in close, and with a huge question mark, he says, "Human?" "Yes, I think, isn't it obvious that I'm human? I mean, the card asked for my race. I am a member of the human race. What was he so upset about?" "You could go to prison for this," he says as he locks the door of his kiosk and walks away from me, shouting over his shoulder, "Follow me." Well, I do. He has my passport, and I've been told never to lose sight of my passport. So he takes me to an office, a desk, a couple of chairs. The walls don't even go all the way to the ceiling, so you can still hear the hum of the arrivals hall. And it's a really long and boring lecture before I understand that what he wants is my ethnicity. And only after he gives me a few examples. Indian, Hispanic, Negro. Well, I'm annoyed now, and I say to him, "It's clear I'm an American citizen. You have my passport. You can put whatever you want on your little card." "No," he says, "you have to choose." And here's the kicker. I can only choose one. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not one thing, and no one in my family is one thing, and none of us are the same things. So I'm trying to figure out what I what I should say. So I think of my birth parents, Black Puerto Rican father, white Belgian mother. I think, no, I want to be like Mama and Papa, my adopted parents. I try and remember their lineage. Okay, Mama's grandmother was Cherokee off the reservation, and her grandfather was Irish off the boat. Papa's grandmother was white and British, and his grandfather was light-skinned from the tyranny of slavery. Now, I don't know then about the one-drop rule. You know, if you have 1 drop of black blood, you're black in America. 1/64 is still on the books in some states. Ultimately, I choose Negro because I think that's what Mama and Papa would have chosen. Well, the immigration officer seems smugly satisfied that he's taught me some very important lesson. And I'm certain that he has, but it's not necessarily the one he thought. When he finally lets me go, I gather my luggage off the carousel and breeze through customs with nothing to declare. And I greet my family, who have been frantically waiting for me, it turns out, for over an hour and a half. But when Mama and Papa understand what's happened to me that day, that I've chosen how I will identify in the world, they take me out to Frascati's for my favorite performance food. You know, stuff made tableside, where I ordered a meal that began with a Caesar salad and ended with a flaming cherries jubilee. And we celebrated the day I chose to be an American Negro. Thank you.